Tonight, there's a lot going on. A lot going on. And we're going to go all over the place, but it's a lot of information. And remember, this is the Collister Fahie show. My name is Collister Fahie. This is episode 51. Had some kinks in the 50th episode, but I've learned a long time ago. It's for a reason, and so I think the kinks are worked out now. Internet is strong. Visibility is there. So we start with the Virgin Islands, but tonight we're going to go all over. It's a lot of information. Remember, the topic tonight is we are seeds. So we'll start with the Board of Elections in the Virgin Islands. The Board of Elections in the Virgin Islands seems to be non-functional or dysfunctional. You have complaints from members of the public, the voting public, still unanswered, or rather, still no hearings. The board has to get its act together. My people of the Virgin Islands and most of the US, but across the globe, because there seems to be great unrest when it comes to elections, democracy, and all that good stuff. But we in the Virgin Islands, we cannot allow this to continue much longer. People, we are seeds. And we just don't know the power we have. We just don't know the power we have. I think it's time that the people of the Virgin Islands let their voices be heard, along with some of the board members, along with the complainants, the people who are victims of different situations. And so I'll just leave it at that and say, the board for 2025, 2026 cannot be like the board for 2023 and 2024. It just cannot be. We have a sitting chairman of the board rife with conflicts. I'll repeat it again, Raymond Williams. You need to look in the mirror and realize that your conflicts cannot be undone. You're in an untenable situation. Now I'm hearing through the grapevine that people are starting to wonder if you're not in place simply to try to steal another election for 2026 to install your chosen governor and lieutenant governor and the minions that normally come along in the Senate. The people are speaking because they're seeing the same old, same old. And I'm saying to the Board of Elections, as a collective, you have 14 members, of which it takes 8 to do the people's business. Not your own personal business, but the people's business. And I really hope that you take it to heart. If you're listening to me or hearing me, seeing me tonight, take it to heart. You were elected by the people to do the people's bidding. What do the people want? They want Title 18 to be followed, strictly followed. They want to know what is going to be done with this impasse where the Board of Elections' duties and responsibilities seems to have been hijacked by the supervisor of elections, unlawfully so. And if you have 2 pieces inside Title 18 that are conflicting, then the board supersedes the supervisor. This is not something that takes much brain power. What the board must now do is take over its power, take it back. And so I leave with that and I'll say the Board of Elections, has to definitely revamp itself and become the board that the people elected. So now I continue. I saw someone sent me a flyer. Apparently, the delegate to Congress, Stacey Plaskett, must be looking at my podcast. If you remember in the 50th episode, I said, well, what is the delegate doing? Recycling old bills, trying to operate like she's doing something? But what happened to the USPS and all that she had said she was going to do? Well, lo and behold, I got this flyer and it says, a USPS town hall hosted by Stacey Plaskett sometime this month. USPS representatives will be on hand to take questions. And this event is paid for by the office of the Congresswoman, Stacey E. Plaskett. But I thought that was a done deal, and the USPS was moving to make things better for us here in the Virgin Islands. See, this is what I'm talking about, my viewers, my listeners. Ida Smith had a clear-cut plan on how to deal with the USPS and get relief for the people in the Virgin Islands. Stacey Plaskett apparently tried to co-opt it or saw some political benefit in saying that she's going to do something for the Virgin Islands with the US. But she ain't do nothing. Now we're hearing about a town hall, so more talk. But the question I want to ask is paid for by the Congresswoman's office? So where she get this money from? Is it coming out of her pay, out of her allotment, or is it coming from USAID? Is it coming from ActBlue or some one of these NGOs that we're hearing about in the news? When you see people start to spend money, all of a sudden and quickly trying to get monies out, you got to ask yourself the question, is what is happening in the USA finding its tentacles into the US Virgin Islands? But my people of the Virgin Islands, the Caribbean, and the world, we are seeds. Just don't know we power yet. But before the night is done, we will discuss that and we might have a better idea of what happens to seeds. So we continue. And I remember telling all of you that lawsuit's gonna bound. So let's take a trip down lawsuit lane and what is happening in the Virgin Islands. I ain't even gonna mention the indictments of Martinez, O'Neill, and Carl White. Those are indictments. I'm just talking about lawsuits separate from that. So now we have a former staffer, a former Treasury Director at Finance, who claims that the Commissioner, McCarty, retaliated against her. Her name is Lucy Nunes, after she reported him to the governor for not following protocol and certain things, giving misinformation and certain things, basically not doing his job. So that is the latest lawsuit that is in the Virgin Islands coming up against the governor, not the governor, but the government of the Virgin Islands. This time, the Department of Finance, with a commissioner who is now being accused of retaliation. Then we had the taxi cab commissioner, the former taxi cab commissioner. The former taxi cab commission executive director, Miss Vernice Gomes, who filed a lawsuit against her illegal termination for what they called insubordination or continued insubordination. So another lawsuit about people who seek to terminate an individual, whether it's retaliation, this one says insubordination. So she's in the court also. Then we have Stephanie Berry, who last year filed a lawsuit against the VIHFA. She is the former chief operating officer at the VIHFA, and she filed a lawsuit alleging retaliation in her termination by Director Eugene Jones Jr. and former interim executive director Dana Clendenon. Her reasons, she states, is for whistleblowing about basically the goings on at VIHFA as it came to CDBG DR funds and requests for her to do different things which she felt was unlawful. So another high-ranking official filing lawsuit against a government entity and the persons who are in authority for allegedly doing things that they were not supposed to do. No, that one is the VIHFA. Then we go on. Ex-acting tourism director K. Milliner Kitchens filed a lawsuit last year against the Department of Tourism, the government of the VI, and I guess Commissioner Joseph Bushulta, the former commissioner, because as we well know, he is allegedly going to go back to WICO as the executive, the chief executive director. Let me just say this. We still haven't found out if Mr. Bushulta has accepted the post. We know what lawmakers and the people are saying, that it would be a conflict of interest, and the law is clear. He has to wait a year before he's installed. We're going to find out more about that as the time goes by, and I, of course, will be reporting it here and having discussions about it. But tonight, we're going down lawsuit memory lane. Now, Miss K. Milliner Kitchens, ex-acting director, another high-level official, filed lawsuit for discrimination, harassment, the creating of a hostile work environment, retaliation also, and wrongful termination. And so that is in the court. Basically, she filed an EEOC claim. That too is still pending in the court. We go back some more. If you recall, Nadia Noor Hansen was the former compliance manager and enforcement director at the Virgin Islands Waste Management Authority, filed an all-encompassing, in my view, lawsuit for sexual harassment, retaliation, intimidation, and for whistleblowing and EPA violations at the VI Housing Authority Dono project. I come back to that again. Because while Noor Hassan, another high-level government official, filed a sexual harassment claim, inside that claim was also a claim of environmental violations by the contractor that was working there as it pertains to asbestos in the soil, heavy metals in the soil, taking contaminated material, I guess, soil, to the Bavoni landfill, and then using it as fertilizer. And so that is in the court. Basically, she filed an EEOC claim. That too is still pending in the court. We go back some more. If you recall, Nadia Noor Hansen was the former compliance manager and enforcement director at the Virgin Islands Waste Management Authority, filed a all-encompassing, in my view, lawsuit for sexual harassment, retaliation, intimidation, and for whistleblowing and EPA violations at the VI Housing Authority Dono project. I come back to that again. Because while Noor Hassan, and having people working on this site, when it was contaminated, the governor and his administration has never addressed that, no matter how much I talk about it. The media, our propaganda media, has never done investigative reporting about that, and I have been beating the pavement, because while that contract went from one amount to almost twice or three times the amount, and a new contractor was installed, the last contractor that was paid millions of dollars, not too sure, let's say they were paid a lot of money out of the contract, was able to walk away after doing some work because, as it is alleged, they refused to go back on this site to work. But based on what we're hearing from the government, this site is good. It should be able to continue the work. But lo and behold, the new contractor has not started working there. Or I have not seen them doing a thing at the Duno project. Not one thing. And so it makes me wonder if Noah Hassan wasn't in fact correct. But regardless of that, the government moved swiftly to settle that lawsuit. And so she was paid an undisclosed sum. And even when the legislature, the senators, our loving, beloved senators, requested information about the payment and the amounts, they were told it couldn't be disclosed and that they would have to issue, I guess, a subpoena to get the information. But lo and behold, nobody have come back to the public and say if they issued the subpoena and if they did get that information to relate to the public, who elected them into office? My people of the Virgin Islands and the world, we are seeds. And even though they're watering us in corruption, in my view, just keep in mind, we are seeds. So Noah Hassan was paid off, and she is silent with an NDA, I guess, non-disclosure agreement. And so we don't know everything that was agreed to, the amount that was paid. All we know is it was settled and everything went quiet. So Noah Hassan lawsuit was settled. We continue. I tell you, we're going down lawsuit memory lane. Now, we all know about the Department of Education in the United States. We know about the Department of Education in the Virgin Islands. I'll just say this. The lawsuit filed by the victim of Bruce Smith is serious. While we're hearing nothing in the news, we're not hearing nothing on the street, that is serious. For a victim to come forward and maintain that the Department of Education in the Virgin Islands and its officials sat by and did nothing while Bruce Smith reigned terror, just like Epstein, down on some CHS students, that is another lawsuit that is filed against the government of the Virgin Islands, because the Department of Education is a part of the government. As an aside, today, the Department of Education in the United States, the employees were told to vacate the building by 6 p.m. and not to come to work tomorrow. They said it was for safety concerns. I believe it was because too many of the employees were interfering by shredding documents, secreting away documents. And you will understand why I say that later on. My whole take on it is this. All these lawsuits that coming down the pike in the Virgin Islands, mirror them to some of the things you see happening in the United States. And you will understand as I go along and say why I say, we are seeds. Here in the Virgin Islands, throughout the Caribbean, throughout the United States, throughout Europe, Canada. Oh, there's a lot going on between Canada and the US. Through Africa, Asia, the world, we are seeds, my people. Now, you remember in 2020 how many Black Lives Matter riots he had, violence in the street. Well, they're doing it again, but this time they're targeting Elon Musk and Tesla. They're just burning Teslas, taking tires off of Teslas, throwing Molotov cocktails and rocks and whatever into Tesla offices. And the media, just like in 2020, are calling them peaceful protests. Remember that? Cities burning and CNN telling, oh, it's mostly peaceful protests, as if people are jackasses and can't see with their own two eyes. Well, let's start again. And they're targeting Elon Musk. Elon Musk must be finding out and exposing things that they want people to look at the new shiny object. They're paying people to protest $40 an hour in the United States right now. That's how unhinged the left, the Democrats, the rhinos are right now. These non-elected bureaucrats are rioting. But it will be no matter. The reason why I tell you that, the same things that the US bureaucrats are scared of is the same thing that the United States Virgin Islands bureaucrats are shaking like leaves over. Everybody said Pam Bondi messed up. She said that you would have Epstein files on day one. And Kash Patel said they will have Epstein files on day one. And so they messed up, and it's the same old, same old. My people of the Virgin Islands, my viewers and listeners, there are truckloads of Epstein information that are going to be declassified, and they are looking through them now. Because the latest information is that the Department of Justice and the FBI are seeking to not just declassify information, they are redacting the names of some of the victims. They are redacting some of the information that tells you about how the agencies work. But most of the information is going to be released. But along with the release is going to come prosecutions of some of those clients of Epstein. Now, that's what I'm talking about. I don't really care about the Epstein information. That is for law enforcement. I want law enforcement to use that information and immediately move to prosecute the clients, the enablers, those who participated in any kind of sexual deviancy on Little St. James, in New York, in Palm Beach, in New Mexico, in Paris, in England, or any place that Epstein was delivering or procuring young girls and maybe young boys. Because that is a story that seems to be lost in the media. So that is what is going on. So I say, give Pam Bondi, Attorney General Pam Bondi, give FBI Director Kash Patel the time to do a deep dive so that when they come to a press conference, come to the podium and proclaim to the world that the FBI is currently moving to arrest these clients as they speak. And those who have been arrested already will be revealed, and those who are in the process of being arrested, they will come back to the podium the next day and tell you all who get arrested until the list of clients is exhausted and we have people in orange jumpsuit to face the fire. Then the seeds, remember, we are the seeds, will start to grow and they will understand their power. Coming to it. That Epstein situation, combined with the fraud that we see from USAID, Act Blue, all of these are Democrat slush funds. And all these NGOs that were given billions of dollars just before Joe Biden left office to do what? Circumvent Trump. All of the money is going to get clawed back. So all who know that they receive a windfall of billions, all I can say is this: be very careful, because the Department of Government Efficiency is looking deep, hard, and wide. Every dime will be clawed back, and if there is any misfeasance, malfeasance, or criminal activity, people going to be held to account. Stop talking about how many billions you get in a windfall from the Joe Biden administration 1 month before Trump became inaugurated. Because now we're finding out they were trying to circumvent that administration and was giving money away for anything and everything without a justification. How can you not have a justification for receiving billions of dollars? And remember, fraud and forgery is a serious matter. Serious matter. And Trump ain't playing no games. I continue. Just an example of what I'm talking about. Just yesterday, they found a vaccine company that had just been registered to a post office box that was run or is run by two former Biden administration staffers who received $28 million into that fund just months before Biden left office and Trump came into office, apparently to try and circumvent the Trump administration. And they are clawing that back. So you see what I'm talking about? Ain't all good money is good money. And ain't all grants and benefits that pour in is actual justified money. I'll leave it at that, because like I say, we are seeds. And they might be trying to water the seeds with corruption. Get people to jump up and say, yay. But remember, my viewers, my listeners, we are seeds. And the good water, nitrogen fixated in the soil around us as seeds, is from accountability, integrity, and true democracy. So when I say that we are seeds, if you get watered with corruption, bad water, you don't grow. You get watered with good water, you get the magnesium, the nitrogen in the soil from accountability, integrity, ethics. You grow in leaps and bounds. And the Department of Government Efficiency is growing in leaps and bounds to the point that they're almost blossoming. And soon, we will see the fruits of Elon Musk, his Doge team, and all of the Trump administration officials who are right now scouring every agency, every department, all these NGOs who receive funding at the last minute, to include all the funding they got under the Biden administration. So it's a long haul. But you see those funds, the millions and billions that came at the last hour, believe me, they are looking at that seriously because something seems off. Remember I tell you, Trump not playing games. Trump is not playing games because he realizes that he has found the Achilles heel at the Democrat Party. They did too much for too long using the same old tricks. And now they are being found out. All the judges who have children and spouses aligned in NGOs who bring in lawfare against the Trump administration, they're getting outed. All the former Biden staffers, former Obama staffers. Believe me, Trump is looking into Susan Rice and Victoria Nuland, and they got ties to the Virgin Islands. All their friends and former big donors and vote, those people who were pumping votes for Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, all of you in the Virgin Islands, you know who you are. They're looking deep at you guys because you guys do the same thing. A bunch of shell companies, not-for-profits, NGOs, giving money left, right, and center, but nothing seems to be done. It's like what's happening in the Virgin Islands. We're hearing about billions, not a thing doing as far as I see. And that is across the board. Because while the Trump administration is looking at FEMA, because FEMA, the EPA, and so many different agencies were used in coordination to pump millions of illegal immigrants into the United States and then take care of them while Americans were not being taken care of. And so you see the Department of Education in the US gets shut down today until Thursday. The Department of Education is on its way out. It's going to be shuttered completely. And FEMA might be on the cutting block. And as a disaster recovery manager, I would just say this. The rules of FEMA are simple. The policies and procedures of FEMA are simple. There's nothing hard about it. What complicates the policies of FEMA is coordination and alignment of people of the same ideology, same political party, and same scheme. Be that what it may, Trump is moving to find as much money as the taxpayers' money to give it back to taxpayers. And every American, every Virgin Islander, whether you like Trump or not, should be applauding that because that is your money. The Democrats, rhinos, the liberals, all these NGOs and the people who we said that we revered. I was one. They did us dirty and they did it for decades. They're still trying to do it now. The same people who did it for decades are the ones now loudly saying you must shut down the Department of Government Efficiency. Then they wonder why voters leaving the Democrat Party, disavowing the rhinos, seeking to primary them in 2026. And the never Trumpers, they're exposing them every single day. The people are tired. Americans are tired. When are we in the Virgin Islands going to get tired because the same trick, same plan, same ideology is being done in the US Virgin Islands? So that is why I say we are all seeds. We are seeds. it is up to us to put out roots and gravitate to the good soil, the good water. That is what we must do. We can no longer sit in the Virgin Islands. We can no longer sit in the US. Well, in the US, they're not sitting at all. They are aligned with Trump up to 70, 80, 90%. And that is across the board. Because if you hear that the Democrat Party is now in the 28s, 27, 28 in terms of popularity, then you know they're probably down in the teens. Because CNN and NBC is who's saying that they're in the 27s, 28, 29, and 30 in terms of popularity. They're saying Trump is in the high 80s, low 90s. That means Trump probably at 98. And whether you like it or not, like what the results are, every taxpayer dime Trump wants it accounted for. Every single agency is cutting fat and cutting waste, abuse and fraud. And he's telling you publicly, he ain't hiding it. Here in the Virgin Islands, we get Epstein money and we put it in bank account and he getting interest and we don't know how much interest. We have government money from the central government put inside bank accounts for interest and we don't know how much the interest is. Trump puts it out to the world. He brings it out himself. He ain't using no media. He putting it out himself from the White House. How much more transparency you want other than that full transparency? And I know you have some of my viewers, they tell me, Fahie, yeah, but Trump might be doing some corruption too. Well then, if Trump is involved in corruption and he's shuttling accounts too, hold him accountable, fine it, and you release it to the public and put it out and everybody gonna be held accountable. Transparency across the board. For Trump and his administration and for all these non-elected bureaucrats and Democrats who've been doing it for 40 years. Let everybody go under the cutting block and let everybody go for transparency. Release it. But I'm just saying, to see the Democrat Party defending things that don't make sense to this day, they're still tripling down and doubling down, tripling down. To now, right now, it brings me to this representative from Delaware, a transgender man. In the hearing, the speaker get up and he say, well, we recognizing Mr. McBride because whether he feel he's a woman or not, he's a man. The colleagues of the transgender man who say he's a woman now, get up and start making noise. You could go to my page and see it. And decide he not moving. Nothing gonna happen. And the chairman the speaker just slammy gavel. That's it. Meeting adjourned. Meeting adjourned. That is the kind of things that the Democrats defended to this day. That happened today. So the Democrats still believe in men in women's bathroom. They're still defending men in girls' sports. They don't have no respect to even applaud for a 13-year-old boy. I mean, for a young boy who had 13 surgeries on his brain, who have cancer. They don't care. I wouldn't applaud Laken Riley, who was killed by an illegal immigrant, murdered, young 20-something-year-old young girl, young woman. They can't clap for that. They can't clap for when Trump bestowed an honorary Secret Service badge onto this young boy. He might be dead in a few. Who knows? The humanity that they could not applaud. So the Democrat Party is fighting government efficiency. The Democrat Party is celebrating the fact that Twitter, was hacked, and the site was hacked by people allegedly over on the Ukrainian side. They're celebrating that. They are celebrating the fact that people trying to get this foreign aid money still going into places that they know, we know, everybody knows that it doesn't make any common sense. You're giving millions to trying to find transgender mice, or to find out if mice can be transgender. This is what the Democrats really defending. That's why I say we are seeds. The entire world now is made up of seeds. The power is shifting. Look, in Romania, the opposition party win the election. The courts step in and null and void the election because their candidate didn't win. New election is set. The opposing candidate comes back and wants to run again. The commission says they disqualify him. You see the Virgin, you see how it go? That is why I tell you, what goes on here goes on elsewhere. They're just mirroring corruption. So they disqualify the opponent who had just won the last election and say he can't run no more. You know what the people do? The seeds grow. The people is in the streets in Romania, in the thousands, hundreds of thousands. You have the police now battling the people of the country. You have police and trains beating up people to not let them go to the protests. And yet the protests were peaceful. They were raising flags and supporting the man. And then the police is attacking the citizens. You see how it goes in the Virgin Islands? You see why Peggy Moorhead had to be arrested? That is why I said to the people of the Virgin Islands, we are seeds. We don't have to be violent, but we have to get in action. We have to step to the plate because we all are seeds. They only can continue to do the things they are doing to us in the Virgin Islands because we continue to stay quiet and not act. They ain't talking about no violence. But first, you must speak up and say that is wrong. We do not accept that is unethical. It's a conflict of interest that cannot be undone. And mean it. Support the board of election members who want change in the board of election by demanding the others who don't want change and want to be in status quo either step to it or step away from it. But the board of elections, through the people's mandate and the people's voice, must be told, you 14 are working for us because we are the seeds, and if you continue down the road you are going, we will grow. We will grow. And you will see then what power we have. So I continue. The doors 1 through 6 lawsuit against the Virgin Islands. And I don't like to say it because the lawsuit ain't really against the government of the Virgin Islands. It's against them leaders who corrupted the government of the Virgin Islands. So the Jane Does 1 through 6 who suing the Epstein enablers, the De Youngs, Stacey, Plaskett, Albert, Bryan, Dow, White, Vincent Fraser, and on and on. That case is going closer and closer to June. And I hear a lot of them singing the supper. They submitted their letter to the judge as to the reasons why they think that the case should be transferred to the district court in the Virgin Islands. Let me say this. I don't believe that they really want to transfer to the district court of the Virgin Islands. Are you want to go to St. Croix? Are you really want to go to St. Croix and try this case in St. Croix in the Virgin Islands with them 6 Jane Does coming into the Virgin Islands and going on his stand and telling the people of the Virgin Islands much worse than what we don't know? Or you really want to take that risk that the same pool of jurors that just convict Darren Richardson for far less, are you going to take a chance with that? Let me tell you something. Rethink our strategy. Because ain't nothing worse than a people scorned. You think we ain't know what you do? We know what you do. We see it live. We see the emails. We hear everything the victims are saying up till now. And if they got more to come, because the Epstein files coming out soon. And when they come out, whether they come out one day before our trial, it could be in June, I don't care. I ain't like the rest, who hungry to see Epstein files, What I want is prosecution along with the release of the files. Give me orange jumpsuit. Because what you have done to the people of the Virgin Islands is unforgivable. I have no respect for them. None. These are people that I supported, trained their sons, brought their sons up with ethics, show them how to be leaders in my youth soccer teams and groups. Only to find out that that is why I was teaching them children at home. Are you strut around the Virgin Islands? Smile and nod and writing email begging for money to destroy one of the better young senators who wanted to be a delegate to Congress? And you think that the people of St. Christ, St. Thomas, and St. John gonna forget? I say rethink our strategy about moving those cases into the Virgin Islands because it's going to trial. And there is no judge, no district court judge could help you. None is a jury trial. And I don't care how I try to pad the jury. The people of the Virgin Islands have had enough of that. And it's over 250 other victims. Pam Bandy said it. Over 254 other victims. I better pray that not even a third of that start to move to the courts. Otherwise, my people of the Virgin Islands, we may be in for a long, long, long road. Because I believe that these misleaders holding on to power in the Virgin Islands, when they know that they got to go and fight lawsuits like this one, to do what? Pay the judgment out of the Virgin Islands? Listen, as much as I want the case to done and the trial to come, if it must be, let the trial go to trial when all of them out of office in 26. What they're going to do to the people of the Virgin Islands and the coffers of the Virgin Islands is left to be seen. But you don't see what the game is. USAID, the NGOs, they tell you what their game is. That is why you're going to find people resign and terminated when they release the information that they put $100 million in a bank account outside of the Virgin Islands for $11 million in interest. That is the game. And then they give big money, shuttle big money from all these grants they're getting from federal grants to the NGOs. And believe me, there is a super NGO, a not-for-profit in the Virgin Islands, that moves around these Virgin Islands like it is a fiduciary. But it is much more than a fiduciary. And before this year is out, I'm going to get to the bottom of it, of how much money that big fiduciary shuttles into the Democrat Party and all these Democrat senators and governors. Because they cannot hide it. In fact, they don't want to hide it because they were getting away with it for decades. And so all the information is public. It's just a matter of putting it together and finding it. It's the same with these master contracts that's suddenly coming out of property and procurement. These master everything. Master construction company. Master private partnership, private-public partnership at Port Authority. Everything is master. Huge conglomerates of people shuttling money left, right, and center like the people of the Virgin Islands don't have sense. Like the people of the Virgin Islands aren't seeds that are germinating. And as they get more and more information out of the US about the fraud, about the way that they move money, the people in the Virgin Islands starting to speak up. I tell you, when you look at these posts and look at these news items, look at the comments. People starting to ask the question, well, you have any not-for-profits in the Virgin Islands used to get USAID money? They align with ActBlue. Anybody who is aligned with Stacey Abrams, Warnock. These are people that they bring right here in the Virgin Islands, come give speech. Notice. Water the seeds now and grow. Grow psychologically, mentally, and grow some cojones. Because what is coming down the pike for the Virgin Islands is serious. You hear talk in the news that freezing of federal funds is causing this and causing that. They're afraid to even go to the NGOs that they don't give big money to tell them shuttle some money. They don't want to be seen. And so it's a two-edged sword. Because you see the shell game that Governor Albert Byrne was talking about to the Daily News reporter, Susan Carlson, he coming right round to bite him in the rear. Remember, he said, the government of the Virgin Islands is like a shell game. They're taking from Peter to Pepal. Well, the federal government is saying they're freezing funds. Take from Peter now. Take from the NGOs that I give millions and I have shuttled away for ourselves later on. Take that money back in. Let the Department of Government Efficiency see our bank accounts sending millions of dollars back into the US Virgin Islands through the side. Because that is what it's going to come to. Because today it was the Department of Education, tomorrow it might be FEMA, the next day it might be the Department of Interior, the following day it might be EPA. And notice, every single one that I just talked about is already freezing funds into the Virgin Islands. Have misleaders, people who are supposed to study straight and narrow and negotiate with both parties, Democrats and Republicans, to get the best for the people of the Virgin Islands. You cannot have your leaders aligning with the Democrats, whole cloth, and talking the most negative, vile stuff about the Republican candidate for president and the Republican Party. And then the Republican Party wins a mandate from the people of the United States. You're supposed to know what is going to happen. So my people, we are seeds across this globe. Because we cannot unsee what we already see. We cannot not know what we already know. And what we have found out is that the Biden administration, the Obama administration, the Clinton administration, the Bush administration have used taxpayer funds as their own piggy bank, their slush fund. Ain't that the same thing we're saying here in the Virgin Islands about our elected leaders? They're using with general funds and the federal funds that come in, like is the slush fund. They're using the Epstein settlement money, like is the personal bank account. We say the very same things. Isn't that the same thing they're saying in Ukraine? The same thing they're saying in Romania, Greece, and on and on? The same thing they're saying in France? The same thing they're saying in Brazil, the same thing they're saying in Argentina, and on, until corrective measures are put in place. And Trump ain't playing no games. I'll give you an example of what I call when I say we are seeds, my people. Canada get up today and say they're slapping on a 25% tariff on energy onto the United States, threatening to shut down power and some of the Americans who utilizing against Canadian power up by Maine and them areas close to Canada, Nova Scotia. And Trump said, well, okay, you gotta be crazy. You already put in tariffs on 10, 12 different things at 200%, 296%. And we put a 25% tariff on one area of your stuff. And you know threatening us with energy. You want to put the Americans in darkness? Trump tell them, well, okay, if I put 25%, we're giving you 50%. They immediately came back and rescinded 25%, and they headed to Washington to talk to Trump. Trump ain't playing no games. Trump tell them straight, well, we're giving our tariffs across the board, like I have 200 and something percent tariff on our industries, our meat, our milk, our eggs. Trump went full badass American on them. And he had to, because he defending the people of the United States. He ain't defending Democrats and Republicans, or independents and libertarians. He defending America, period. You should applaud that. And he means the taxpayers of the United States have been ripped off for too long, and it's time that the taxpayers get something back, because they've been ripping us off for decades. The Democrats suppose that they're losing voters. We are seeds. We want that good water. We want that $150,000 as a dividend for all them hundreds of millions and billions that they've been taking out of the United States for over 50 years. And then you got some of our leaders here in the Virgin Islands and through the Caribbean too. I ain't forget them, who talking the most nonsense. You have attorneys here who saying they can't even call Trump name, but you better call his name. Because if he gives out dividends and cuts the income tax, the federal income tax, you're going home with more money. He ain't taking nothing from Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare. The Democrats lying and saying that he is. He's not. He ain't touching the entitlements. All he's saying is, you cannot be on Section 8 and you cannot be on food stamps for your entire life. Your grandmother, your mother, you, and you got your children training to come onto entitlements? No. You're supposed to go out and get a job, and we're going to help you get a job by giving you enterprise zones. And when we get you a good job, we're going to move you off a food stamp. Because you're only supposed to be for a time till you get back on your feet. Democrats suppose that because he's saying, oh, blacks and Hispanics depend on it. That is how they think of you. You're only entitled to what they can give you. You don't have enough in you to get up and stand up with the help of government for a time until you could reach your crescendo. Yet, while they are defending you getting handout, they were giving illegal immigrants billions of dollars to all these agencies and USAID. ActBlue was funneling money allegedly in the names of some of these same illegal immigrants. One social security number all over the place. When we get to the middle, because we ain't getting to the end of this for this year, I could tell you that. By the time the Department of Government Efficiency realize how corrupt the Democrat Party, the Republican Party have been for decades, because don't believe that they're bashing Democrats, you know. The Republicans, them rhinos, war hawks, are just as guilty in the US and in the Virgin Islands too. Ask yourself the question, my people of the Virgin Islands, my listeners, my viewers. How is it the Republican Party does not operate like the Republican Party in the United States? Have people out there seeking to register voters across the board, pushing back against the bad Democrat policies. Oh, it is alleged that the very Democrat Party have people in their party who are supported by the Republicans in the US Virgin Islands. How is that making any sense? And who want defend? I know. I know. And the Republican Party in the Virgin Islands in my view, and I'm a Republican, the leadership of the Republican Party in the Virgin Islands does not do anything to assist the rank and file in the Republican Party. They do for themselves and who they choose to do for. And that, by definition, is corruption. So they're just as guilty as the Democrats in the Virgin Islands, in my view. Because I believe in conservatism, not republicanism. Conservatism. So when you see the Democrats out here in the Virgin Islands having voter registration drive, but you never see the Republicans, or you hear the Republicans have some kind of registration drive in somebody's house, in some polluted place where nobody could get to. That's not what I'm talking about. Them is sham. Come out in the public, let people see who is your leadership. Bring your leadership in the community so the community could say, but wait, this is the Republican leadership? Well, we're the locals. And locally. Because it seemed like the Republican leadership are people who come here from all over and take over the Republican Party and keep out the locals from the Republican Party. How come we ain't see the Democrats doing that? How come the Democrat Party have so many locals entrenched in the local party? The state's chairmen, local. Have to bring in nobody from Delaware to come into the Virgin Islands to sort them out as a party or to assist. So what happened? The Republicans in the Virgin Islands are considered uneducated. The Republicans in the Virgin Islands are considered what? Lower class? Well, something got to be done. Something got to be done. Because I'm going to tell you this. Like I say, we are seeds and we want that good fertilizer. We don't want no corruption in our ranks. And so I say to the Democrat voters, we are seeds. I say to the Republican voters, we are seeds. I say to the independents, because some of them independents vote more with the Democrats than the very Democrats. So I say to the independent party and the voters of the independent party, we are seeds. Why don't we come together and vote on policies now over party? Why don't we vote on policies over groups? Make them prove that they are giving you good fertilizer, good ideas, good policies. As you grow and you bear fruit, you make sure that they don't reap your harvest, which is your vote. Your vote is what all of them want. And if they cannot get your vote one way or the other, they steal it, run it how they want, and select who they want. That's a question. I don't know the answer to that. But having lived here for a while, I'll tell you this much. Once you're forearmed, once you're forewarned, you're forearmed. And so, I'm going to say this. Ida Smith et al., that lawsuit filed by Ida Smith et al. Against the supervisor of elections, I'm going to say to the supervisor of the elections, you sure you want it transfer to the district court of the Virgin Islands? Because no judge going to be able to help you then either. It's jury trial. And we, as a collective, are asking and demanding that the U.S. Attorney of the Civil Rights Division take this case on our behalf, because Carolyn Fox, as supervisor of elections, you violated federal law. You violated local law. You slandered and defamed Ida Smith. I hear you the worst, but I will let Ida Smith explain that herself. Soon as we get this kinks to work out. Because you know the good thing is, tonight I am here, and I ain't really got no kinks. I ain't really got no kinks. I still ain't seeing comments appearing. But other than that, everything good. But after my show tonight, I'll go back in and see the comments and I'll answer them. But as far as it goes, I ain't seen no kinks. So we're going to try to sort it out. Because you see that lawsuit, Ida Smith et al. Versus the supervisor elections. Who don't hear feel? You know, as the supervisor, what you did. Playing wrong and strong is not a good look. And getting people in your bubble to talk the most nonsense on the radio and on social media, it still ain't gonna help you. Because all I said to you is this. You know Title 18 back to front. You know what laws you violate. You know everything that happened in the Board of Elections from 2012 and maybe before come back. Understand I want to put you. Understand is where I want to put you. And if I get you understand, imagine what I could do, much less the U.S. Attorney for the Civil Rights Division. Be careful what I ask for. And that is why I'm saying the Board of Elections, to all the members of the board, do what you were elected to do. Nobody on that board or in the ESVI is above the law. Nobody has the entitlement of feeling that they cannot be held accountable. They will, one way or the other. Because the people of the Virgin Islands, tell them now, we are the seeds. We are the seeds. I keep telling my viewers and listeners, how is it our local leaders in the Caribbean, in the USVI, even in America to some extent, don't they look across the world and see what works? Don't they look across the world and see what doesn't work? Don't they look across the world and see that the proxy wars, the color revolutions are destroying nations? They get rid of Assad in Syria. Look what's happening in Syria. It's the same thing that was done in Libya. Look at Libya today. Libya has open slave markets. Black people, our African brothers, getting sold in markets. The people suffering. But they say Gaddafi was bad. The same man who gave them free homes, free electricity, free this, free that, college tuition. Listen, in Syria right now, they're killing Christians. Because under Joe Biden, support the same insurgents and reinstall a Muslim Brotherhood, basically, leader who come out of ISIS and he just brutalizing the Christians in Syria. But let me tell you, my viewers, the stupidity of the Biden administration and the intelligence agencies under that administration and the Barack Obama administration, they feel they're above the law. They feel that the government is theirs. So you had USAID funding one part of the war in Syria propping up the insurgents who were against Assad, and at the same time you had the CIA propping up Assad because they wanted to infiltrate Assad and get him away from Putin. You see the kind of nonsense? The US, our taxpayer dollars, was funding both sides of the war. So you think that we don't realize that that is a bad thing? Look at the results in Syria. Look at what happened in Israel with the Gaza. The Palestinians and the Israelites, after Trump had them to the table in them accords, Joe Biden goes into power and all hell break loose in the Gaza. Now you hear stories of maybe you were Israel fire and the own people to set it up. Them things would not happen under Trump. Then you hear Hamas holding hostages. Trump declare war on Hamas. You gotta let go American hostages. We're not taking that. Otherwise, we are going to wipe you off the face of the earth. Again, looking out for Americans first. Look at what happened in Iraq under George Bush. Weapons of mass destruction? No, he don't have none. Oh, but he's inhumane, so we're going to take him out, and we're going to take his gold, take his artifacts, and take the oil. Well, they didn't take the oil. They give it to contractors and consultants through NGOs and cutouts. Same trick, same game. That's the bad. So then they can look across the globe and see what's good. Bukele of El Salvador declare 100% all out war on drugs and gangs. And fully he prisons with gangs. El Salvador is one of the safest places in the world. The man is at 99% approval rating. The people of El Salvador love him because they now can walk the streets without being in fear. His advice to the US? We had to impeach our corrupt judges who brought Fahie against the government. And once we impeached them, we went about fixing the country. Now the country legal justice system is impartial, doing what he have to do for the people. And they got Fahie all over the US trying to stop Trump from finding out about the fraud, waste, and abuse, theft of our taxpayer monies. Argentina, Millie came in and a promise to the people of Argentina that he was going to gut the bureaucracy. He went in and he just get rid of some of them departments, just top heavy with departments full of bureaucrats, cut left, right, and center, find all the ways, fraud, and abuse, prosecute who need to be prosecuted. And for the first time, Argentina had a surplus at the end of the year, 2024. The people of Argentina dollarize and the people living a decent life. In Brazil, it's the exact opposite. They're doing the very same things. Like Venezuela, where one person wants to hold on power and they use USAID funds to prop up propaganda in Brazil to get rid of Bolsonaro and put in the puppet. But now it's backfiring. Because the people have seen what is going on. And guess what? No more USAID money going into Brazil. So guess what you think the Brazilian president did? Indict and trying to arrest the opposition leader. It sounds familiar. That's what they do to Trump. And so to my listeners, I keep saying we are seeds because we got to look wide and look far to see how it applies to us locally in the USVI and the Caribbean. How much more you going to take them leaders in the Caribbean who think that there's gods? They just want to hold on power and they're going to do anything they want to keep power. I keep saying after 30 years of giving your ideology, your policies on a country, you don't think that is enough? And it's time to give somebody else in the 40s a chance to impact the country for at least 10, 15, 20 years. You got to hold on till when you're 75. You got to hold on power. You just feel that you have the most knowledge about how to run a country. So you can just stay in power like these senators we have here. They want to do 5, 6, 7 terms. They ain't realize that all the senators who were there 15, 20, 30 years ago gone back home. Who ain't gone back home to wherever they come from? They ain't love the VI like they used to say. They got contracting company, a consultant company that now come back to rape the very same Virgin Islands. Who ain't got gas station and still in the Senate? Who ain't come out of the Senate and got gas station? Who ain't want to now run for governor to do what? Rape more of the Virgin Islands. It's the same game, same trick. But we are seeing, we have seen it all now. You are seeing everything in a different light, not in the vein of corruption. Don't let nobody give you no car to drive home and that make you and your family and your extended family vote for them because you alone got a car. Your family suffering the same under whopper you too, but you look like you forget. Don't let nobody tell you that they know what is best for you while they're standing up with the boot heel on top of your neck. So they're telling you the grind in the boot heel in your neck is what best for you. So you don't realize that if you move the foot and choose the person who willing to lift you up, that is better than the boot heel. Oh, but your boot heel is a family friend. The boot heel you know from grade school and kindergarten. Because what we don't realize that in the USVA, the Caribbean, the world, every place, it is the same game, same trick. Corruption follows the same model. In order to steal the government funds, they must commit fraud, they must commit forgery, they must steal money. They must create shell companies with accounts. They must have consultants and contractors who are lying with them. That's a given. They have to have offshore bank accounts, and they have to have people in different areas from different countries willing to be as corrupt as they are to get it done. How can somebody move gold out of the country? How can somebody rip off hundreds of thousands of barrels of oil? How can somebody rip off from the country the precious diamonds and emeralds and sapphire? How? If you have 1,000 pounds of gold and you're selling it at $50 a pound, as an example, then you know how much it is. So how come in these countries you never know how much gold actually going out? How much you're actually paying for it? You're getting paid for it. How much actually come back? All they tell you is, oh, gold paid for the bridge and gold paid for the hospital. That's not what we ask you. We ask you how much of the gold paid for them. We want to know what the balance is. They never tell you the balance is. It happened in St. Kitts Nevis, it happened in Antigua, it happened in Guadeloupe, it happened in Martinique. All these countries, St. Lucia, Dominica, Bahamas, Barbados, I don't care where they come from. As long as the governments of these countries are involved in corruption, it follows the same vein. And that is why what Trump and Elon Musk is doing with the Department of Government Efficiency in the United States is affecting the whole world. You ain't realize the world come to a stop, you know. The world right now, treading on pins and needles. You have lawyers in the US fighting to keep the corruption going. You have judges in the US fighting to keep the corruption going. You have NGOs all across the globe shutting down the offices. They ain't getting more USAID money for a while. You have propaganda outlets shutting down offices. They ain't getting no USAID money. EPA send them money for whatever reason, because what EPA got to do with media? What FEMA have to do with illegal immigration? The Department of Education have to do with a foreign country and putting on shows to make sure that the children they educated when you're undereducating your US and your US Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico and Guam students? How can you send money from the Department of State or the Pentagon or wherever to promote voter registration in Afghanistan, and you can't promote voter registration in the US and the US Virgin Islands? How can you send money to countries that use paper ballots in ballot boxes and they count by hand, and you against it? They use voter ID in these countries that you're spending millions in to promote their elections. And in the US, you want to have your people vote without voter ID. California is a mess. New York City, a mess. This is why I say it is easy, very easy to understand why the world in the space of 2 months, less than 2 months, has changed. Trump isn't any supernatural being. Many people say Trump is legendary, he's brilliant, he's an icon. None of that makes people do anything unless they want to. The fact is, what Trump has done is to give to the people of the world one opportunity to finally unite around good versus evil. If it is corrupt, it is wrong, it is evil. If you seek transparency, integrity, you're looking out for the safety of your children, your women, and your men. You're seeking to give jobs to the people of your country without him being invaded by foreigners who kill some of your people. Some come and they want to be upstanding citizens, but unfortunately, because of bad actors, it's painted with a broad brush. Because from the beginning, illegal immigration is a crime. To come into anybody's country illegally is a crime. Especially in the US, it's a crime. That is why when I hear locally, our governor and our leaders set up to not adhere to the federal law when it came to illegal immigrants, I laugh. Now that they turn and flip over, they all vomit and saying they're working with Trump. You got ICE raids all over the Virgin Islands. Ain't a thing Governor Brian or the Brian Roach administration doing to stop it. You know why? Because they were the same ones who were working with Biden to bring illegal immigrants, fly them in here to make the federal money. They think people forget. That is why I say we are the seeds. We cannot forget the past. It advises your present and it educates you on what the future gonna look like, because Trump is here. And you could cuss for the next 3 months, 4 months, a year. He got 4 years. In 2 months, he bring the world to a standstill. All he did was decide to audit USAID. When he realized what USAID was up to, he expanded his audits. And now he has expanded it, he realizes that the government of the United States appears to be a RICO, the most corrupt criminal organization in the world. It must be painful, but he intends to try to fix it. And I say he intends to try to fix it because the amount of violence that Democrats All of a sudden, you see them, and Black Lives Matter trying to raise back up. They can't go nowhere. The money tree gone. Trump have cut their money tree. They have no money to get. So they're floundering. Looking for George Soros. George Soros was using USAID money too. It was a trick. Just an illusion. George Soros is a big time billionaire. He wasn't doing none of that. He was leveraging 20 million and getting billions out of the United States coffers, our taxpayer money. They need to give it back or have it taken back because they got a lot of property. So go get it. I with Trump and that. Go and get it. At the end of the day, the world understands what theft is. The world understands what fraud is. Since Zelensky with the tail between his legs gonna come back now looking for peace from Trump, I could tell you, Trump maybe pick up the phone and tell him, you think I don't know about them biolabs in Ukraine? You ain't getting a dime in USAID money. What are you going to do, release pathogens? Go ahead. If you think you're bad, release pathogens over in Ukraine and Europe and see who's going to suffer first. Huh? Who's going to suffer first? You explain it to me. The most important thing for seeds is water and nutrients. Trump is providing all the nourishment the world needs. The people of the world are waking up. And so I have a warning to give before I end tonight. Pull my paper. The USAID scandal, it ain't come to the media yet, you know. This what I'm going to say hasn't been said in the media yet. It hasn't been said on any social media. It hasn't been said on Twitter. No Instagram, no Truth, no nothing. Nobody have gone this way yet. This is where my brain works. You see the USAID scandal? Money to all these not-for-profits and NGOs and people who have cutouts to those NGOs who sit on boards, getting 296,000 as CEOs and executive directors, family and friends, daughters and wives of these politicians. Politicians making bank at $175,000 salary. Politicians using the inside information to inside trade and make more millions. They use USAID to enrich themselves worldwide using taxpayer money. They use up the American money like they were pimps, and the people of the United States and the US Virgin Islands, Guam, Puerto Rico, and the Mariana Islands, they treated us as if we were the prostitutes. You see, when the Mighty Short sing the song, the prostitute in the island, from all and sundry, they're making my people cry. That is a prophetic line. That is exactly what Trump has exposed. But you see, along with that USAID scandal, that stealing of government funds, now in the news, you're hearing about the Otto Biden scandal, where apparently almost all of Biden executive orders and pardons and all them good stuff was done by Otto. How much you want to bet before next week, Tuesday, when I come back to this show? They're going to link the Attopen scandal with the USAID scandal, and you're going to realize that he had people using Biden Attopen to shuttle these money all over the globe. That's why I say this is a warning to all these misleaders and non-elected bureaucrats in the Virgin Islands. Be very careful that you're not doing that in the Virgin Islands, that you're not receiving funds in the Virgin Islands, allegedly from the Biden administration, and it was authorized by Attopen. That is fraud. And that is why you see I keep saying, look at what is happening in the USA and realize that it affects us directly in the Virgin Islands. To some extent, it affects the world. But in these Virgin Islands, our governor was aligned to the hip with the Biden administration. Not much, maybe not much with Biden. Because shaking Biden's hand and talking to Biden must have been a task. But you didn't have to get to Biden in the Biden administration. That is what the world is seeing now. You only had to know who were the people who had authorization to be in the White House and had the ability to find the Attopen. Access to the Biden Attopen seems to be next breaking scandal. Not just the Attopen was used to sign Joe Biden's name across all kind of things that he himself maybe even didn't know. The fact is that an Attopen was accessible to some of the most low-life characters, or not even Democrats. They just were using the Democrat voter. The Democrat machine, just like the Virgin Islands, being run by a group of people who feel entitled. They are in leadership position, intelligence agencies. They cannot be touched. You remind you of the Virgin Islands? They feel that they could judge Hap or judge shop. They could district shop. They want to file the case in the Southern District of New York. They want to file the case in the Southern District of Columbia. They want to file the case in the Southern District of Florida. They shop around for judges who were appointed by their specific presidents. So the warning to the Virgin Islands is this. You know that Joe Biden Attopen facilitated the influx of money into the Virgin Islands through any agency over the last 4 years, including December to January of 2025? Be careful. Be very careful. Be very careful. Because like I said, as of tonight, a high-ranking official in USAID sent out an email instructing the remaining employees at USAID to start to shred all the personal documents and any classified documents in the classified safes. The email continued to instruct these corrupt employees that if the shredder or the shredders become unavailable, or they just need to take a break, or malfunction, they must take the documents and put them in burn bags. Well, let me ask you a question. I wonder how much shredding it takes to make shredders, big, huge shredders malfunction. How much shredding it takes so that employees might get to form a queue, a line to get to the shredder. So he's saying put them in burn bags. And if you can't burn them, make sure you label the burn bags secret, or put on them USAID/B/IO, which is the Bureau of Independent Office. Islands, we are seeds. I'm going to give a warning to the people of the Virgin Islands. Don't shred nothing. Don't put nothing in no bond bag and all the good stuff. If you do, you are flirting with jail time. Flirting with jail time. Lastly, and this is to the seeds of this world, the people. People who understand good versus evil. People who understand it takes one shining light, one person with ethics, integrity, accountability, transparency. Just one person to teach another person to spark that light. One seed and another seed and another seed. And if all of them grow, you're unstoppable. So let me say this quote. This is from Shensia. And I will end with that tonight. I don't normally play music, I'd stop. But tonight I had to play that song for my family. We hurting. But to my family, just know, God is with us. And we will get justice for Shamari. One way or the other. So keep the faith. Soon come. I soon come. But this is the little quote. Seeds. Like a seed in the soil. You just haven't grown yet. The power you hold, you don't even know yet. Water yourselves with information. Accountability, integrity, and ethics is easy. All you have to do is know right from wrong. Water all the seeds, yourself and everybody around you, with those nutrients and water. And once you do that, you will take root. You will grow a stem. You will grow leaves. You will grow in bounds. You will blossom. And then you will be a fruit. And it is those fruits that are your weapon. It is those fruits that will grow and fall, be eaten, be dispersed. And in those fruits contain many, many more seeds that will end up having your DNA of ethics, integrity, and accountability, transparency. And it leads invariably to democracy. The right versus wrong. So we all are seeds. It's time for us to grow. Time for us to blossom. Time for us to bear fruit. Split open and let all our seeds go. And to my viewers and listeners across the globe, there is no power stronger than an informed people, an activated people, a determined people, a brave people. Nothing can stop the power of enlightenment. Nothing can stop the power, that unstoppable force that combines and can move any immovable object. Because eventually, the power of the seeds understand that you can either go through it, go over it, go under it, or go around it. But in the end, that immovable object will be of no consequence to the unstoppable force. That is the people who want to see change in this community, the United States, the Caribbean, the world. So to my listeners and my viewers, just know this: the sun comes up. The sun comes up. It always does. Just activate yourself. This is true. This is very true. We are the seeds. The sun will come up. Good night and God bless. We are the seeds. Time for us to grow.